Hey guys, it's Hink here. So what if I told you that there legitimately is something on the horizon that could absolutely revolutionize penis enlargement, kind of like Ozempic did for weight loss? This is not hyperbole, and there actually is a substance out there, and it's called PSX-6302. Today, we're going to talk about what it is, how it works, why it can revolutionize, but why we also have to hold our horses because it's not quite there yet. Before I go any further though, I want to know in the comments, would you consider taking a topical cream that's experimental, that might have potentially fatal side effects in order to make your D bigger? Let me know right now in the comments. And also I want to give a big shout out to my guy, Ada, for putting me on this paper. So guys, the first thing we need to discuss is the role of anti-lysoloxidase in penis enlargement, okay? The rate limiting step in penis enlargement is the tunica albuginea. It's not up for discussion, okay? Like anybody that says otherwise, in my opinion, is just ill-informed. Here's an excerpt from this research paper here, which basically describes how the rate limiting step is the tunica and the collagen composition with it. And so using a substance like anti-lysoloxidase can allow for penis enlargement. Now, where the science comes into play is there was actually a rat study, and it was done using a very dangerous drug called BAPN. But what it did was it tested rats and it gave them the anti-lysoloxidase. And what you saw was that just using anti-lysoloxidase in rats increased the penis length by 10%. And when you combined it with pumping, you increase the penile length by almost 20%. So from that, we can determine that anti-lysoloxidase is a huge potential gold mine for actual penis enlargement. Now, here's where things get really interesting. So here's the study. Now, this was actually a double-blind, placebo-controlled phase 1 study, which we'll talk about, looking at the use of this PSX-6302, which is basically a topical anti-lysoloxidase that they were using for scar remodeling. Now, what PSX is it's actually what they call a pan-lysoloxidase, meaning all the different types of lysoloxidase, because there is a lot. It blocks all of them, okay? And so this would be very important. Now, they studied this in basically patients that had burn scars, because when you have a scar process, really any kind of scarring process, there's an excess deposition of different types of collagen, usually type 1 and type 3, and extra activity of the extracellular matrix. And so you get this really thick fibrous tissue that doesn't expand. And so by using anti-lysoloxidase, they hypothesized that it's going to break down those bonds and allow for the tissue to actually appear more normal. Key thing is that this is a phase 1 study, meaning it's basically done to assess the safety and tolerability. That is the number one objective. There's different phases. I'm not going to bore you guys with that, but there's phase 1, 2, and 3. Phase 1 is basically to say, yes, this is safe, and establish the doses. And what they did in this study is that they applied this PSX, I'm just going to say that for short, guys, onto these different burn areas for a total of 90 days. They analyzed adverse side effects, and they also did analyze the actual structure of the actual tissue to see if it started to normalize and you had the actual activity of anti-lysoloxidase. So most importantly in a phase 1 study is, what are the adverse side effects? Well, guys, they were actually very limited. There was one participant that basically had significant redness and itching that basically resolved on its own, but it did cause the patient to basically drop out of the trial. Now, there was only about 24 people on this trial, so it wasn't a big trial, but 1 out of 24, guys, that's not good, okay? That's a relatively high side effect profile rate from the jump. Now, what about lysoloxidase activity? Was it reduced? Because, of course, that's the goal. Well, yes, guys, it was dramatically reduced, which you can see in this graph here. They also looked at something called hydroxyproline, which is a marker for collagen. And guys, like I've said it before, I'm going to make my collagen video, but you don't want excessive collagen deposition if you're trying to make your D bigger. You don't. And they found that by using PSX, the actual hydroxyproline, the marker for collagen, was decreased. And they also found that something called tissue attenuation was significantly increased with PSX, meaning that the extracellular matrix was actually normalizing, which is also a good thing when it comes to enlargement. So guys, what did they conclude from this trial? Well, let's read it. They say that this trial proves encouraging results that safe and effective inhibition of lysoloxidases can be achieved with a topical therapy, leading to change in scar extracellular matrix. So they're basically saying, hey, it's safe, it's tolerated, and this should go on to phase 2 testing. What are my thoughts about this trial? Well, first of all, I have concerns about systemic absorption. I've made multiple different videos on anti-lysoloxidase, but you have to understand that lysoloxidase is not just for the tunica of your penis or in your skin. It's also in many different organs, including your lungs, including your liver, including your bones, including many other, especially vascular organs, including your aorta, which could rupture and lead you to die. Guys, if you're enjoying this video, I'd really appreciate a thumbs up. And of course, if you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing to the channel. The good thing with this study is they actually tested for systemic absorption of anti-lysoloxidase, or the PSX, in the blood, meaning what is circulating in the body, with topical, meaning putting it on the skin, absorption. And what they found was that it was very low. And so specifically, they say it was very low or non-measurable levels detected at all time points. So that's very encouraging, meaning that you can put it on the tissue and it doesn't get into the bloodstream and potentially cause havoc elsewhere. Now, guys, in my opinion, the #1 application for this right now is Peyronie's disease. If you could combine this with something that's called H100, or like basically emu oil, something that you know penetrates the tunica, and you could get this PSX in there to actually like break up that scar tissue causing the bend in the penis in Peyronie's disease, that would potentially be a game changer, and I'm sure that there are companies studying this. But guys, you have to understand that this was just for safety and tolerability from this trial. We have to be careful with like jumping the gun. I'm sure some of you out here are already like on Google trying to find, where can I find like PSX? Just hold your horses for a second, okay? But let's theoretically like talk this out. How could this be applied? Well, like I said, guys, if you haven't seen my video on H100, you should check it out, okay? But basically what has been determined is that there's something that's called emu oil, which has been proven in clinical trials to penetrate into the tunica of the penis, okay? They specifically studied it with a drug called verapamil for Peyronie's disease. Now, in this study, looking at H100, which is basically verapamil and emu oil, what they saw was that stretched penis length in patients with Peyronie's disease increased by 22%. 22%, that's a pretty big deal. Once again, for more on that, guys, please watch my video on H100, okay? But if you were to combine this H100, or specifically the emu oil with this PSX, that would be huge, okay? I mean, and you would have penetration that would potentially revolutionize PE, or penile enlargement. Guys, but there's major concerns here. #1 is that we have an idea of what the systemic absorption is when you put this on the skin. We do not know what the systemic absorption is, meaning how much is going to get into the bloodstream if you attach it to a carrier called H100 that is actually going to penetrate through the skin and into the tunica. That could, in theory, increase those levels of basically of going into your blood, or what we call systemic absorption. And once again, guys, you need collagen linking. You need your extracellular matrix for things like your skin, your blood vessels, your liver, your lung, your eyes. There's major implications. Guys, a lot of these like BAPN, anti-lysoloxidase, it was literally studied because they were trying to create aneurysms in rats so they could learn how to actually fix these aneurysms by inducing them. It's not hyperbole when I tell you, if you have too much of this in your system, this could literally be fatal. If you are prone to aneurysms, this could literally be fatal. If you have high blood pressure, this could literally potentially be fatal for you if you're just unaware. The other thing, guys, is penile fractures. If you are using something that is going to weaken your tunica, you would potentially be at a higher risk of a penile fracture. So you guys that are doing jelqing, which for some ungodly known reason are still doing it, you'd be at a higher risk of penile fracture. You guys that are clamping, using hard clamps with high pressure, penile fracture risk. Honestly, just normal sexual intercourse. She's on top, comes down at an angle. That's how penile fractures occur normally. You'd be at an increased risk. Even pumping at too high of a pressure could potentially lead to a penile fracture. And then, of course, guys, you have your lysoloxidase in your skin that is responsible for keeping your skin together. So if you exposed your skin to high pressures with that topical anti-lysoloxidase on there, you can potentially increase the risk of blisters. And so there are a lot of potential side effects. And the most important thing, in my opinion, from this is there is no long-term follow-up. They looked at these patients for 90 days, checked the blood levels and said, yeah, they're all right. And they're going to move to additional studying. My concern is that, let's say some of you guys, because I know like you live in the moment and 60 years old seems like forever away. But what if you take a little bit and it starts the process that puts you at risk for an aneurysm when you are 60? And all of a sudden you're living your life, then boom, you drop 60 years old because of an aneurysm because you were using this, and they only had 90 days worth of data on this. Hink, you're an alarmist. Don't you
Don't do the voice.
Okay, guys, that's fine. You guys know how conservative I am when it comes to this PE thing in general. But this is a very real concern. We don't know how much is a safe amount of PSX or PXS in your actual bloodstream, okay? We don't know that. We don't know how much is a safe amount, and we don't have any kind of even clue of long-term data, okay? So what are the next steps with this? Well, I think the next steps are, this needs to be, the cutaneous or the skin version needs to be followed through to a phase 2 and a phase 3 trial. And I think the urologist needs to start incorporating this with H100 for Peyronie's disease treatment. Then once we have that Peyronie's disease data to show that it's at least reasonably safe, then it could go into moving forward, guys. I highly, highly, highly recommend you don't try to source this stuff on your own and create your own little emu oil experiment when, I'm not joking, this stuff could literally kill you. But once again, I'm a clown in a mask. Who listens to me anyways? But just please be careful. So guys, honestly, my conclusions, this is very promising. Like, I'm actually very excited by this, but I think it's nowhere near ready for anybody. And like, it would make me cringe and honestly make me very sad to know that somebody watched this video and then I go on Getting Bigger or my subreddit r/Hink on Reddit and see that somebody's testing this on themselves. That would make me very sad. And so I hope you guys don't do that, but whatever, guys, it's your D, it's your life. Just don't break the law and don't do anything illegal. But if this works, this could quite possibly be the end game for PE. So guys, let me know your thoughts. Would you actually try this, okay? Or would you even be willing to consider this right now based on everything that I've said? Some guys are so desperate to get bigger, like, I'm not gonna lie, I get it. At one point, I would have done anything to get bigger. But guys, of course, you can actually get bigger without the risky side effects of drugs like this through my Hink trial, okay? My Hink protocol. I have my course available below that was used in this Hink trial, which you can see for yourself, where guys on average gained 1/2 inch in length and 1/4 inch in girth in 6 months with no significant adverse side effects whatsoever. So if you're interested, check it out. If you need to reach me for coaching, patreon.com/DocHink. This tank top's looking fly, and I'm glad my arm days are kind of working a little bit. So anyways, guys, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace and love.
Dr. Hink got the plug on the health, yeah. Got you thinking about your wealth, yeah. In his office, no stealth, yeah. Pinnacle of that below the belt, yeah. Checks and balance, he's managing. Working miracles, no damage. Got you covered, no panicking. Stay calm. In the clinic, no vanishing. Yeah, with Doc Hink, it's the way back.